and Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Forest are back in action in Europe on Thursday night, and it will be a second away day in the competition that sees the Reds pack their cowbells and Lederhosen for the trip to face Sturm Graz in the country of the Von Trapp family singers and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Of course, the Reds are off to Austria. We're live from Chateau Raff to bring you this match preview as Nottingham Forest look to climb every mountain to get another win on the board before it becomes 16, going on 17 days without a victory. I'm your host, Greg Oram, and for the first time ever sat side by side for a live broadcast with my podcast partner, Richard Spray, and also with us is Raf, the random pundit, the one and only Paul Morley, and on camera live in Sheffield, we have Danscape. After a fabulous win against Porto, the sound of music is still ringing in our ears from the final whistle. And now all focus is on gaining another 3 points and truly making that their ideal vice.
Saracana.
Doe, a deer, a female deer. Ray, a drop of golden sun.
Stop whining.
Me, a name I call myself.
Kids are soft.
Far, a long, long way to run.
You lack discipline.
So, a needle pulling thread.
Well, I've got news for you. You are mine now. You belong to me.
Tea, a drink with
You're not gonna have your mommy stand behind you anymore and wipe your little douches. Oh no, it's time now to turn this mush into
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
Put that cookie down now! I'll be back.
With songs they have sung.
Who is my daddy? What does he do?
1,000 years.
I'll be back.
The hills fill my heart.
Saracana.
With the
And
sound.
do me a favor, don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired.
Mountains look like
You cold-blooded bastard. But I hope you leave enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine! Ah!
It can only be an Austrian style Arnold Schwarzenegger intro. Welcome to the Talking Reds. We are round the table at Raff's in London, and Danscape is with us as well. It's going to be a bit different today, guys. We're previewing the trip to Sturm Graz. Do go ahead and hit like and subscribe. If you're in the comments, we'll try and keep up with you. But this is going to be a bit different today. We are, as I said, previewing the game away on Thursday night at time of recording, about just going to 4:30 on Tuesday. So let's get straight into it. Richard, you're still here, your last day.
Yeah.
And you're going off tomorrow.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling, mate? Firstly, tell us how you're feeling about your trip coming to an end, and then how are you feeling about the Forest match away at Sturm Graz?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, man, you forgot the best soundbite that exists in Arnie's little catalog, which is "Kill me, do it now!" Right? Come on, man. You gotta go with that one.
You know what? I left it out purposefully because I didn't know you could do the best Arnie voice I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Oh man, I've got some more tricks in my bag.
That's a hidden talent.
Yeah. So in any case, yeah, it's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you guys know, every time I come back here, it just reminds me of what I love and why I'm connected to this place. And that all does filter through the Nottingham area particularly. But in reality, it was so great to just enjoy some time in London with Raf as well. Because when I lived here before, we never went to London. We just went to the East Midlands. We hung out in Wales. We hung out in Norwich, didn't really go many other places. But it's been absolutely incredible to kind of check out Craven Cottage, check out Stamford Bridge, walk around Westminster, do these things. But the family time was obviously at the top, and then hanging out with you guys has been really great. So it's been phenomenal. But as far as the match is concerned, I mean, look, it gets cliched after a while, but I want to see a little bit of rotation. I want to see a little bit of some of the youth that we have, some of the depth that we have start to show progression, or at least give an opportunity to progress and get on the pitch and actually get some minutes, some live minutes, right, as opposed to what they're getting, which is on the training ground at this point. So hope to see that and a good performance to go with it, obviously. so that we're prepared, we're rested for the forthcoming Premier League match against Leeds, which we all know is critical. So, but I tend to feel pretty good about this. I think you're starting to see a little bit of the Dyche sort of mentality and approach to things starting to kind of permeate the squad. So I think we're gonna give a good performance, and we're gonna show up to this one. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. As ever, Brucey is in Texas. He says Dan is feeling a little bit left out.
He's like at the kiddie table or something.
Dan, I feel bad. And of course, we've got the wine table, and Brucey said that you must have picked up from Oldie. I'm afraid not, Brucey. This is a very, very good wine, courtesy of our host, Raf the Random Pundit. So there's no Oldie wine on this table. And a quick thank you, of course, to Mark NFFC. He says, for Dan, that's a £2 for Dan, so you can invite a friend.
Sure.
So cruel. I know.
Sorry, Dan.
Sorry, Dan. Dan, I'll come to you, buddy. How are you feeling about the game on Thursday? We go for us. It's only our second away trip. We've had 3 games already in the competition. A couple of wins at home. We know about Midtjylland. The Porto game we're feeling good about. How are you feeling about the trip to Austria?
So, firstly, it's like being in the pub with you guys the way you've set it up. I wondered what I was going to tune into, and it's like I'm sat at the table with you. So you've nailed it. Good job on that. I am gutted not to be there, and obviously I am now looking like Billy No Mates, so that's all good. Exactly. I've got the cat. Yeah, that's as good as it gets, and I'll have a glass of wine later on this evening to celebrate. In terms of the game, it's a really interesting challenge because of the squad rotation and because of obviously what we've got coming up at the weekend in Leeds. So in that respect, it is going to be still a bit of kind of, I guess, uncertainty around the lineup and around the result and what impact it has, and whether some players will try and obviously force their way into the thinking a bit more. So there's still a lot to be interested about in terms of a result. Then when you look at the level of the opposition and all that, we should be going into it confident of picking something up. And I guess it depends in terms of priority between the two competitions. A win now really eases the pressure on the Europa League further down the line when the other fixtures start to come thick and fast as well. So it's always a balance. If we don't put a bit of effort into this one to get the result, then further down the line we'll have the same dilemma again of trying to pick up results in both competitions. So still got to be really focused on it, and we can't just sort of say, whatever happens, it doesn't matter because Leeds is more important. I think we've still got to try and win the game, and I think we can.
Yeah, well said. What about you, Raf? I mean, in terms of the Europa League, we talked about how we want to balance the Premier League fixtures against the other competitions we're in, and we were also, all of us were so up for Europe. It kind of fell flat with Midtjylland. I mean, you and Paul were away at Betis. It looked unbelievable. The Midtjylland game was where kind of everything unraveled for Ange, and the fans maybe fell out of love with the Europa because of what had happened then. Porto was great. How are you feeling about Sturm Graz? And do you still want to be in this competition come January, February?
So I'm running a bit against the grain, and I think I've always have been. For me, Europa is actually more important than Premiership survival is important, but finishing 17th, 16th, 15th makes not a jot of difference to me.
That's where I was. Right, that's where I was there.
This is about actually trying to, and I'm pretty sure this is what Marinakis wants, is win the Europa League. That is the gateway to getting into the Champions League. This is the gateway to financial stability. This is the gateway to progressing the squad to be able to get top 8 stability, which is ultimately what we want to be able to do. So I don't like this whole forget Europa, it's not important, let's panic about the league when there's still so many points still to go. We can already see the progression of what Dyche has put into the team. So let's not panic about the league. But I don't want us to put out a full 11 for this game because we need to balance. And I think that's it. It's like balancing the force massively. We need to be very tactical about how we do things. Because it's Leeds, I'd have a slightly weaker side for this. If it was Man City away at the weekend, I'd go, do you know what? Play the strongest side in Europa and maybe actually rest some people against Man City and just, do you know what? And just play a bit more tactically like that. So it is about resting. But I am fully excited for this game.
What about you, Paul? I mean, there's fans that are on the plane today that are paying their money to go away to Austria. And I'm so jealous. And when I saw you guys there, I was so envious. I wish so much I was with you two. God, it would have been so good. but I'm seeing these guys, and Steve Battermuch is going as well. So is there an element that the club really need to put out a team that validates those fans travelling? Is it, what I'm trying to say is making 10, 11 changes, does that kind of almost like, spoil the party a little bit? Or would you say, look, that doesn't come into it? And where are you on the game?
Before I answer that, I should say my best mate at school, his auntie is married to Arnold Schwarzenegger's second cousin.
6 degrees of Schwarzenegger.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first.
So that's important to get out first.
Yeah.
In terms of your question, I'm very jealous of the people going to Graz as well. I don't think it is. I don't think it would be a slight if they change place, because ultimately, look, we bought this squad in the summer, right? And we all know the reason we bought this squad is because we're going to need to rotate people as we play the different 2 competitions or even 3 competitions, depending on obviously how the season goes on. So this, I've been almost waiting for this sort of period of games, in that up until now, we've always had an excuse not to rotate because league games are really important. The first couple of European games have been big games against big opposition. All right, Michelin arguably wasn't, but they're top, so you could say that it was. I'm not in any way dismissing Sturm Graz as a lesser team, because obviously they will be at home, their fans will be passionate, they'll want the result, but it feels like the ideal opportunity to start now over the next 5-6 weeks. We've got this game, we've got the Malmo game, we've got Utrecht, we've then got Ferencváros, Braga, etc. in the new year. We should be seeing proper rotation, I think, in the next 5 or 6 weeks, and this feels like the ideal game to do it. And if I was going, which I wish I was, I'd still be going, hoping to see the likes of McAtee, Callum Wendo, etc., get a run out, because they need it. We need these guys to be, when the season goes on, as Raf said, if we end up going deep in this competition, or if we end up not going deep in this competition, end up being in a scrap towards the bottom of the league, and key players get injured, you're going to need some of these guys to step up at some point in the season. So let's get them involved now, and let's get that process started.
Yeah, because how long can we keep saying, oh, well, it's early in the season, we've only played 9 games, we've only played 10 games. How long can we keep saying that? And I said to you guys before we came online that if we don't see McAtee and we don't see Callum Wendo start this game, then I'm going to be scratching my head and asking serious questions as to why that is. Because if you cast our minds back to the middle of last season, maybe even January, when we were talking about January transfer window, I think we all talked about McAtee as a signing we would love to have. And some of us were thinking, I'm not sure we'd get McAtee. Some of us were saying we should go for McAtee. And sure enough, we get McAtee, but we haven't seen anything of McAtee. So, he has to play, doesn't he, for you, Richard? Yeah. I mean, can you make any case for any of the managers we've had this season, all 3 of them, as to why McAtee hasn't had a fair crack of the whip yet? Or is it just a case that, it's a congested squad and so on?
I think there's that. I think it's also just the fact that you're in a difficult position. So when you're trying to win matches and you're trying to get points, you're trying to get results, you're going to have to play the players that you have had the time in the Premier League in particular, right? Because they're going to need to be on that pitch driving us forward. You're going to need a player like Morgan Gibbs-White, even though we've been frustrated at different performance levels throughout the season thus far. You're going to need that. Plus, I mean, think of the busing it was last season. Anderson, I mean, I hate the fact that Danilo ended up getting injured and couldn't play, because he's a great player. But it opened the door for Anderson to come in and completely control the squad. Now this is his team, right? And now you're building around him. And here's the issue we run into, especially if we get relegated. We're going to have to sell people. So we need these players to start, logging time, as Paul said, to start developing, in some frame or fashion, facing a professional team on the opposite side of the pitch. Whether that be in Europe or Premier League. I mean, the Premier League's ideal, but as we know, we're in a scrap right now. So as I said, you've got to get players that you trust, right? Who should have higher levels of performance and certainly are more acclimated to the league. So, but absolutely, because I have a sinking suspicion. Maybe I'm thinking too far ahead, and we really just got to take it each week as it comes. The Nuno approach, right? You take each game as it comes. But I mean, I have a feeling players like Morgan Gibbs-White may not be in our squad next year, and we've got to see if we got anything, because it's gonna frame how you do things in the transfer window in January. Potentially.
You're right, but Morgan hasn't done any favours for himself to get him a move.
I agree, but I think they know the potential, and they've seen in past levels of performance, where he was up in the top of the league for assists, right? So that's in him to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's all psychological primarily at this point and confidence oriented, but getting those guys time on the pitch to me also builds synergy too, and it's building some cohesion with the way that they play within a certain structure and framework. So I'm with you, Greg. If he doesn't see the field in any way, especially starting, you got to wonder, like, is this guy really a bust? Because how does someone not see the opportunity to weave him in these kinds of situations that are ideal for him to start getting match fit number as well as getting more progressing as a player, maturing as a player?
Yeah, it's an interesting one though, because if you think about him coming in, it's not like he was starting week in, week out. Whereas you look at a Bakwa, you look at a Dan Doy, you look at an Igor Jesus, who was actually mid-season. All of them have hit the ground running with tons of reps of actual games, of actual match fitness. You then have a player like McAtee, where does he fit? Right, he can fit in lots of different roles. We're on to our third manager who's come in, who's probably wanting him to do various different things, and he's working towards his fitness, working towards that role. A new manager comes in and sets the bar differently for what they want out of him. So I am not on his back. I think that he's had a whole lot of moving goals. I think that he's behind the curve of getting fit compared to a lot of other players that we've got through the door as well. So I think I'm still very excited, but we need to cut him some slack, get some stability under Dyche, get Dyche levels of fitness into him of what he wants with a clear job role for him. And I think we'll actually see him come out.
I mean, what have we seen? We saw his first glimpse of him was he came on at Palace. He had a couple of lovely little touches, and everyone went, "Ooh, we've got a player here." He played against Swansea.
He came on against West Ham. I was at the match, and he looked really good.
Yeah,
on the right hand side.
Played against Swansea.
Yeah,
missed a couple of chances, I think, didn't he? Missed a couple of gilt-edged chances. But aside from that, had a pretty good game. And then I think he started against Sunderland, didn't have a great game. Then nobody really did, and I haven't really seen him since.
We've not seen him since then.
So yeah, look, as I said before, ideal time for him to slot back in, show us what he's got. And make a name for himself, and really kind of put his hand up and say, look, ignore me at your peril. I want to be in your squad every week.
Yeah.
Might not be in your starting 11 every week, but I want to be in your squad every week. I think a lot of it in terms of what to expect from him or what he expects from us, arguably more important, is what vision was sold to him, what role was he told that he was going to play. I think he probably must have, being realistic, knows he's not necessarily going to come in August and walk straight into the first team and play, 80% of matches. But he's going to be told, you bide your time, do what you do on the training ground. You'll get a glimpse here and there. It's a shame from his point of view. I've said my thing on the Swansea thing. I think it's probably we're better out of that competition. But had we stayed in that competition, we probably would have seen him again in the next round against whoever that would have been against. So circumstances have transpired against him, but now is a really good opportunity for him to stick his hand up.
Dan, I'm going to bring you into a second, but I look at Savona. He's the player that has managed to get 2 or 3 games on the pitch, and it's been noticeable to me how much he's settled and how much he now looks past of things. And it's an obvious thing to say. It's a cliche, but when you get someone who gets a run of games, lo and behold, they start to look like they belong. Exactly. And obviously, no one else has had that apart from Igor Jesus now due to Wood. And on Saturday, the things he was doing, he got his face on the ball for the Savona goal. He caused a problem. That's enough for me, getting into the right places. I was disappointed with Dan Ndoye in the second half, but he's also had really good moments this season, especially early on. And against Porto, I thought he was fantastic. So there's our new signings that are getting runs in the team that are making a difference. McAtee hasn't had that. So Danscape, I didn't ask you this beforehand about stats on McAtee. And we know that he was a bit part player at Man City, albeit last season was getting more exposure. But is he likely to come into the team, do you think, based on what we know about him and his profile, and actually get a chance to get a run in the side, in your opinion?
It is a tough one because I think I had doubts when we signed. Well, when we were first interested in him, there's little doubts and niggles that he wasn't the kind of player that would make the transition from a Man City style of play to a low possession, lots of work off the ball, kind of having to battle to keep hold of the ball. And then I sort of watched a bit more of his highlights, and I was more convinced that he had that raw kind of talent and skill on the ball that would overcome some of that eventually. And I suppose what I'm fearful of now is that actually the first impression was correct, and maybe he just doesn't fit where we are right now in that kind of relegation battle, struggling side that needs to just do the real basics right. But, that's not easy to do because it's all more about physicality and, getting hold of the ball and causing problems for teams as opposed to getting time on the ball and it's showing off your talent. So I wonder whether, unfortunately, we're seeing a bit of that. He's gone from, being at least on the bench at Man City to not even being on our bench. So I don't know where his head's at times. He's really probably, this move is nothing like he would have dreamed it to be. He would have, how he would have seen it, I'm sure, is to be that, come on at 60 minutes for Gibbs White, or come on and play a game when Gibbs White isn't playing, and he would be the long-term successor. So he's got some work to do there. But I think with the rotation in this game in particular, with him and the others, this is actually the real test of a manager and the coaching, isn't it? Because we talked about this with Bournemouth in that they slot new players in well, and if someone's injured, someone else comes in and they do well. That's actually the test. Like, having your best 11 players play well is one challenge, but having the other guys come in and play at the same level or near enough at the same level is actually the bit that potentially sets you apart from, other managers that struggle when they get injuries, and that suddenly undermines their season. So it's a big test on Dyche to not just rotate the team for the sake of it, but to also get something out of these guys, and so that they're on the same page, so that further down the line when they slot in, it actually works. And big challenge. McAtee definitely for me starts this game, so I can't see why he wouldn't start this one, and he's got a big chance to show what he's about, I think. Just before I finish, you guys, watch your hands on the table because you're getting very animated, which is good. But when you put your hands down or whatever, it goes boom on the mic. So watch out for that.
Okay. We'll keep our hands over here. Maybe it's the glasses of wine that are getting clunked down a little bit like that.
Smash through
Martin Sherlock Holmes says, afternoon all, good to see a live for once. And Bruce is right to point out that Cali Mwendo is our only striker available for Thursday as we think it. No Tyrone, no squad, no Igor, yellow cards, no Wood due to injury. Also, John Cena says, I don't know what's happened to set pieces. We've conceded from them again, and that is obviously an ongoing issue that we are thinking about all of the times. Graham Smith says, hello, lads. This looks cosy.
It is cozy.
It's very cozy. I've got to be honest with you. It is very, very cozy, and the wine is going down very, very well. And Edward Y of Oz, one of our remaining Australians, says, come on, you red wine. Absolutely. Thank you if you are with us. Please do hit the like on this video. All right, Raf has been doing his best to put together a little bit of a preview or an idea about our opposition. So, like we always like to bring you, here comes Raf's opposition preview.
Send them back to East London! We send them back!
I hope anybody's not stupid enough to write us off.
Can I just quickly say as well, Arnie's slot hasn't changed his spots at all. Last season, we were on him because he was complaining about how we played against him. But he's at it again. He's doing it again. And I know we lifted that in Arnie's slot in your head. But what a whingy, moany bugger he is. Raf, over to you.
Yeah, no, the other bit, which I think is so apt now, is the still believe part, which we still need to do.
Indeed, yeah, 100%.
And no one write us off. Well, I do love doing these opposition previews when I've got not a Scooby snack of who any of the players actually are that I'm looking at in the lineup, which makes it really fun. But what I would say, so first having a look at the squad values, and this is where, look, We can't treat them as thingy at all because that worked really well last time. But we do need to look at them and go, look, we need to go out with confidence. Our squad value is 10 times theirs, okay? So even if we are playing our second 11, they should still be good enough if they have been coached and they've got the right belief behind them. Where they are in their league, they are 3 points off top, but they are a game behind. They've got a game in hand, so they're pretty much in a four-way battle at the top of their league, top of the Austrian league. They don't really have a great run of form at home, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. But they are sporting a pretty injury-free squad. They've only got one backup striker that's out. The one bit of bad news for them is one of their very key midfielders, Chukwuemeka, I think is called, and he is one of their midfielders. He is banned because he got sent off in their last game against Celtic. Why that's quite key for them as well is because they really do line up, as we are very familiar with a 4-2-3-1. So it's one of those two midfielders that they're not going to have access to. And they have a pretty stable lineup. When we have a look at their lineup, there's really only their goalkeeper that they switch in and out, which is never really a particularly good sign. And they're basically the left winger or their attacking midfield on the left side, which they switch. Everyone else is pretty stable within their lineup. How they performed in Europa so far? Well, they lost to Celtic. They won against Rangers, but Rangers have amassed 0 points so far. So that's exactly, it's not a massive achievement. And then, well, that we lost to Midtjylland, they lost to Midtjylland as well. So they're kind of on 3 points. We're on 4, but I would say, and we'll come on to how well we've been doing against oppositions and where they sit in the table in a little bit. Now, who's a real threat to them? It's their number 10. Who is Kitishvili, right? He is really, really dangerous for them. He's their absolute goal machine in the number 10.
Georgian.
Yeah, probably is, I imagine.
Sounds Georgian.
Yeah. And he is doing everything our 10 isn't doing, which is being a goal machine. Although it's like Morgan did play better and get a goal last game. Their right winger as well, Horvat, is very dangerous. He creates goals. He can score goals as well. Horvat's the one that's on. Actually, if we can switch to the next, if we move on to actually have a look at kind of some of those heat maps that we normally do.
That's it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Danscape. My EA from afar, fantastic. Very much appreciated. And so Horvat is the one, as we can see from the heat maps, does all of their set piece work, but has kind of got that Alanga role. So from the right hand side, drifts all across the line around the penalty box. And so kind of is a bit of a danger and very difficult to pick up. We saw that with Alanga for us last season. A team didn't really know what to do with him. Now, Kitchvili then also going through the centre drops off a bit to the left-hand side. This all starts feeling a bit familiar of how we played last time when we decided to overload a side. And I'll show you that when we come on to something in a second, not quite yet, but in a second, of how they actually like to overload and where that threat's going to come from. Okay. Now, their striker, they kind of rotate their strikers, but they seem to be playing Malone. And Will, WT Analysis, was kind of doing a bit of analysis on Malone and how he can actually be a bit of a problem if Bolly or he's a little bit mobile and he can actually give a few problems. He also, if you look at his heat map, drifts around quite a lot as well. So it can be a bit of a problem. What he doesn't do, though, as you can see, is he does not do any woodwork and drop back and help out the defence. He literally camps on the halfway line and waits for balls to come to him. Now, when we look at ratings, yeah, I know, right, they're playing in leagues and they're doing a lot better in the league, but they have got a few players. They've got 5 of them that rate on the Sofa score above 7. It's those two, Kitchvili and Horvat, that have got 7.33s, and they are their top performers. But, which is very annoying for us, their goalkeeper is partial to a worldy game as well and has got really solid score of a 7.22. And then it's actually their fullbacks are the other two, right, that have got scores over 7. So their fullbacks are in really, really good form. But as I've said, it's Kitchvili's goal machine number 10. I think I've got about 6 goals so far. All that scores and creates. He's then got goals and assists, right? Their strikers, they rotate. They're not the largest threats. They've got like 2 goals and 1 assist between them, and they kind of rotate through, but you can't discount them. If we move on, Danscape, a little bit about the overload that I was talking about. If we have a look at it, 50% of all their action comes down their left-hand side. And that's what we saw on the heat maps of you've got Horvat shifting to the middle and even onto the left-hand side. Kitchvili, who's going down the middle and moving to the left-hand side to then complement whoever they pick who's going to play on the left. That is going to be a lot of work when we come on to look at our teams of who's going to have the bulk of the responsibility defensively down our right-hand side, definitely. So that's what we're going to have to really, really focus on. Where are their weaknesses? Set pieces. They really aren't very good, like us, at defending set pieces. So if we can get offensively strong at our set pieces and get Wone and Stone working on those so far, what we've had this week to do it, we might go well. They've only conceded 1 of their goals from open play. Okay, so really we need to get better at that. So, right, if we quickly just go very quickly to the last slide, what I do want to point out is we can be a bit more hopeful, right? So Ange was in charge for Betis, Midtjylland and Porto. And even with Ange, right, we still managed to get 4 points. Porto have got 6 points so far. Midtjylland have got a full 9 points so far. Betis have got 5 points so far. So we have actually played teams that are on the upper side of all the tables, and we've still come out with it with some credibility with quite a garbage manager, right? So,
So it was Dyche's first game.
It was. Yeah, actually, yeah. Sorry. Error in the graphics pulled up. Yeah. So Dyche got us the win. So with Dyche in charge of where we are and how we've played against teams that are actually doing quite well in their own campaigns, we go to Graz that are on 3 points, and the only point is against actually winless Rangers. I'm quite hopeful. And the last bit of Raf silver lining that I'm going to end on right here is the fact that Graz are coming in with 3 losses on the bounce. Okay, so they've lost their last 3 games. That was Celtic and 2 in the league after Celtic as well. And we're playing them at their place, which does not bode well for them. So their league form at home, they've only won 1 game in the league and they've lost 3 and drawn none. So actually, no fear, we should go for it. And absolutely doesn't matter what team goes out, let's do it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Putting together a profile, a speech, a piece about a team that we know nothing about.
Absolutely nothing.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah. I use chat for the Porto game because I don't know anything else. If you are listening and watching along, please do bear in mind that we are sponsored for this episode by the Cheese Trader in York. Stu Freestone is a fantastic friend of the show. He's a Nottingham Forest fan. So please do support your fellow Forest fans and their small businesses. And I can also announce now that Stu phoned me just a couple of nights ago to say it's about time we did a competition giveaway. So there's going to be news coming up very soon. We're working out the details. We will be doing a Nottingham Forest shirt giveaway. The competition details will be coming your way soon. Keep your ears and eyes peeled for that. But in the meantime, buy some lovely cheese from Stu Freestone. Get your discount with Talking Reds, 10% every time you quote Talking Reds. All right. So we're going to Sturm Graz. We talked about the opposition. We've had a chat about McAtee. We have got an idea about maybe a bit of rotation coming into the squad. Let's think about who we might individually want to see in the team. So let's go to Richard's team first. Richard, coming to you, mate. Over to you. So what's your team? Take everyone through it. There's those that can see it, those that can't. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I had a very much a Pete Blackburn, over-analytical, overthinking, multiple versions, couldn't decide on something. But I think the way that I'm setting this up is I'm thinking about a couple of key things. Rotation, clearly, as we've all said, is a common theme, I think, amongst all of our stuff that we're putting together. But as Raf talked about, there's some key players starting from the back going forward, right? So I'm having John Victor come in. I think Sells needs a little bit of a decompression time. Give him a chance to, he struggled a little bit recently as well, but have John Victor come in, right? I mean, he strikes me as a guy who's a little bit more commanding in the box, right? He's a little bit more physical. He's going to come out for balls and come off the line a little bit more, which we definitely did need that. But it'd be nice to see him feature a little bit and see what he can do, because he definitely looked good in the Club World Cup. So I have him in goal, and then I'm going for a back three. A lot of this has to do with the fact that we're just really thin in the winger space right now, and we're not only thin, but we've had to use Dan and Doy and Callum Hudson-Odoi quite a bit. So I don't want to burn them out, because we want to make sure they have fresh legs for matches against Leeds, because we have to win that game, right? We desperately need to get points out of that match, especially get the 3 points to get some momentum. I'm going to rotate. I'm going to keep Milenkovic in there, partly because I think in a back three, and he tends not to, he's done a little bit more this season, but he tends not to advance too far up the pitch. He tends to kind of command that little area that he occupies. So I think having him on the right and having his height and his physicality, as we love to have when we're defending set pieces, but to Raf's point, having him on the offensive side of it as well is of huge value, because we know we got 5 goals last season. And I think the majority of those came off set pieces, right? Bring in Willy Bolly, Dan's man. Willy Bolly needs an appearance. He can operate in that center back position in the middle of that back three. And then you got Murado on the left, who's actually been playing pretty well. He's actually, I think, 4th or 5th in terms of SofaScore ranking, in terms of how he scored throughout the time he's been on. He's not playing a true left back position in this situation, right? Which we all know we don't like that. So we're gonna let him do that, and I think he's going to show well in these kinds of matches, because he's historically done well, especially this season.
Yeah.
This is where it gets interesting, right? So when we get into the midfield, because we're going to want to rest players like Anderson, absolutely, because he's played a ton of minutes. Morgan's got a little bit of rest here and there, but we still want to keep him fresh for the next match. Maybe have them on the bench, if desperately need to come in. But we've got a midfield 4 basically going from the left side, Dominguez, right? Because we know he's played in sort of a wing back role or a wing role. So, and he can, a lot of this I'm sure will be rotating.
I think he can play anywhere.
I agree with that.
I think he can play anywhere.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe everywhere but goal. But yeah, you have him on the left, you in a kind of a wing back position, Sangari right next to him, then Yatesy, because we need that S. Hauser in the middle. We don't want thingy to happen again where we get muscled out, exactly, bullied off the ball in the middle. So you have him in there, a club captain. He can be the vocal element that we need to keep everybody organized. And by putting him on the right, you've got Abbott, so you bring a little bit of coverage. You get Abbott an opportunity to get some game time, continue to progress as one of the best players we have in our academy right now, right? And so you have him on playing that right wing back role, which I've seen him do. He does move up, and he can play a little bit more advanced position in some matches we've seen it. So that's your midfield. Then you got McAtee in the 10, per our conversation a minute ago. See what he can do in that role from an attacking midfield. And here's what I wanted to do with Ndoye. You kind of have to bring him in. We were on the last pod. We were told by one of the folks that was commenting that watching Callum Mwendo last year in the French league, he's not as good as a lone striker. He plays better as a guy who can play off of another player, another striker, if you will. In this case, will be Ndoye as a false 9. He won't have to run as much. Let Callum Mwendo drop deep, pick up the ball, and create that link-up play and that hold-up play, and allow Ndoye to not have to run as much and cover as much ground, because we know he can head the ball, right? Because we have no presence of when it comes to crosses coming in if you just got Callum Mwendo, because he's not good in the air. He's good on the ground, right? He's skillful with the ball at his feet. So let's bring him in to pair up with Ndoye in those front two. So again, you're going with kind of a 3-5-1-2 formation in this sense, and he can play that false 9 position, hopefully give us a little bit more prowess in the box for on-set pieces and with crosses. So that's my 11.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah. Steve in the comments says, Kishishvili is a good player. We need to watch out for him. Daz in the comments says, that team will get beat, Rich. Abbott and Domi have zero pace for the wide areas. He's always saying, please research their team. They play on the counter. That's got to be the slowest team selection I've ever seen. Lol. Well, listen, you could be right. I think, in fairness, we're kind of thinking about a team that might.
So their average possession is 54%, right? They in the league what they play, they do not play counter-attacking football.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bow to your knowledge who's researched it.
They don't.
But Dad seems to know about Sturm Graz.
Again, that's the point of having fresh legs out wide, right? Because they can drop and help cover in defense.
Well, look, here's my team, because this is. So I'm kind of like, I'm going to give you my team. I've gone for the 4-3-3, and I'm making wholesale changes. So I'm putting John Victor in goal as well for the same reasons you mentioned. Let's just let cells decompress. I love that word. I've got Abbott coming in at right back. I've got Willy Body coming in alongside Milenkovic because I want Murillo to have the rest because he had the recent injury, and Milenkovic is the Terminator, and it feels like he can malfunction and be fixed very, very quickly. And I've got Morato at left back, which I know is scandalous. How could I possibly? But against Sturm Graz, I think he'd be fine to a certain degree.
I think that's the point, though, based off of the comment a minute ago. If you're playing against Betis or someone else that with a little bit more, I mean, I don't want to take them lightly. You've got to treat every match like you're playing Real Madrid, right? I mean, that's got to be the mentality. But ultimately, Reece told us in the pub, right? And the Nav, their best player left last season, at least the best player at the time, and went to Derby.
He's a right back.
As a right back.
Right.
So I'm not saying that encompasses everybody else that's going to be on the pitch for them, but I think it gives you some indication that this isn't the German Bundesliga. This isn't that level.
No.
Right? And that's not to diminish them because we did that with Michelin as well.
Correct.
And we obviously got bitten from it. So
and so those that can see, my team features a midfield three of Sangare, Yates, and Dominguez. So I'm picking the same players, Richard, albeit in a different formation, with a Kalimawendo through the middle, a McAtee coming in off the right hand side of a front three, and a Dan Endoy coming in off the left of a front three. You know, so the same personnel, albeit in a 4-3-3, just because I felt like that seemed to fit those players best. I think I've made wholesale changes because I am prioritising the Premier League. I do think the Leeds game is crucial. We also have 5 subs. So if we bring on an MGW, a Callum Hudson-Odoi, and so on, I can't think of any more players apart from that. Must be the wine. But, you all know the first.
Well, I think we were saying earlier, please don't let Nico.
I kind of want to rest Nico.
No Nico, no Murillo, no Ando.
I want to Anderson needs to be rested. So look, I'm all in favour of utilising our squad. Will Sean Dyche make that many changes? I don't know. Well, none of us know, but that's what I would go for. Paul Morley, you take us for your team. I think you're in the same kind of ballpark, but a couple of differences.
Kind of, maybe with a little bit less rotation than you guys. So, I mean, I hear the John Victor argument, and if Sells would get arrested, John Victor start, I think it's...
You'd be cool.
I'm agnostic either way, to be honest, but I've just put Sells in there just from a continuity point of view. I think basically the reason I put Sells in there is he could do with getting a clean sheet just for confidence, and this feels like a game potentially where that could happen, and so for that might be help him kickstart his confidence. But like I say, I'm less precious about that. I think everyone's gone for Milenkovic as I have. You mentioned earlier about players getting a run in the side. You mentioned mainly around new signings, how after a run in the side they look better. I think Morato, we saw that earlier in the season. He's definitely one who, after 3 or 4 games, you can see his value.
And loved him. He came out and said he really liked him.
He did, and I think on the basis of what we saw, there's no reason for us all not to like him. No, because he played well in those 3 or 4 games.
We loved him last season when he was
exactly. I think again, I would rest Murillo, wrap him up in cotton wool, and play Morato in this game. I think Savona, I've picked him as well, just because he's kind of on a bit of a run now. He's not got a huge amount of minutes in his legs, so I think he still is able to do a couple of games a week. I think I'd keep him in the side just for confidence. Obviously, he's up from the goal on Saturday. Williams is the one that I agonised over, and I do hear absolutely loud and clear all the arguments for giving him a rest. It just feels like unless we play a back 3, which you could do, arguably with Savona on the right of the back 3, and maybe put somebody else in a wing back. I don't think Dyche likes a back 3, so I've kept the back 4. This is necessarily a mixture of what I want and what I think Dyche will do. So I think he will start with Williams. In an ideal world, you want to be 3-0 up at half time, you drag him off and you give him 45 minutes rest. But let's see. Midfield 3, I think I really want to see Dominguez get some minutes. I know he had that sort of, it seemed like he was brought back out of the wilderness for the Sunderland game and then hooked halfway through and we've not really seen him since. So it feels like he, assuming he's fit, is an ideal opportunity for him to get back into the swing of things. Yates to Sangare because I think Anderson needs a rest. And then you're left with McAtee needs a game, as we said. I think he can slot in on the right-hand side. Callum Wendo, I hear what you're saying, Rich, about apparently he works better in a 2. I think against Swansea, he played on his own for the portion of the game that he played there. But for a couple of questionable / really poor offside decisions, he could have scored a goal, won a penalty, and then who knows? If it's confidence, isn't it?
He was poor off the bench against Betis, though.
He was poor, but he was. We were there, and he was poor. But again, this is an opportunity to okay, right, reset. I think the key thing, the way I view these European games is there are, as we said before, a great opportunity to get the squad involved, but it's kind of a bit of a welcome distraction. We've all talked about how tense we are and how important Sunday is, and it is. But actually, this is a kind of nice welcome distraction for some of these guys who, Callum Wender, let's face it, is probably not going to be involved against Leeds or unlikely to be involved in any great deal. So he can just go this game, play free-spiritedly. So he's got no weight on his shoulder. Just go out there and express yourself. Show us what you can do, and make a nuisance of yourself. You've got 90 minutes because unless possibly Woods on the bench, you might come on for 10, 15 minutes. But you've got the vast majority of the game to show us what you can do. And then on the left-hand side, Ndoye, I think for me, Hudson-Odoi is still my number one wing pick. When it comes to Premier League, and then the others are still vying for the rest of the places. I thought Ndoye, like you said, had a really cracking game against Porto. So European games, on the evidence of that, potentially suit him, arguably at the minute, a bit more than the physicality of the Premier League. So let's give him a chance on the left as well. So that is dictated by what I think Dyche will do, obviously the fitness of everybody, and I think and a team which I think is equipped to go and win the game, hopefully quite comfortably. And like I say, maybe that allows us after, whether it's 45 or 60 minutes, to then start bringing off your Williams, maybe bringing off even Milenkovic and putting Bolly on, and giving those guys who need the rest ahead of Sunday a few minutes rest.
Okay. Dan didn't manage to get a team over to us, but I'll bring Danscape in, take that team off for the moment before Rafa gets a chance. What are you thinking, Dan? I mean, is there a case that McAtee could play as a false nine, as he played for the under-21s in the summer? Is that a possibility for you? Or are you kind of thinking anything different to that kind of personnel? Or do you want to see more first teamers start? What are you thinking?
Well, I think this is an opportunity for Ryan Yates to play in the number 10 position to fulfill the aerial deficit that Calimendo probably doesn't have. So I've gone with 4-2-3-1 because I just think, again, if you're a manager trying to get everybody up to speed, you don't get them up to speed in a totally different system than the one you're going to want them to play in further down the line. So I put them back into the same system that we want to play and get them that experience of playing together in that system. So I think it'll still be 4-2-3-1. Williams has to be rested for me. He has really played too many minutes. So he's definitely rested. Anderson definitely rested. Although it wouldn't surprise me entirely if Anderson played in this game because I think he just loves playing football. But
I know, but we can say the same about Williams. Yeah. But
I know.
The manager's got to make a decision and say, you know what, you guys need a break, surely.
Yeah, but fullback, you have to run so much. In central midfield, you can kind of have a quieter game, I suppose is all I would say. And that for me is why I would play Murillo, because I think at centre-back, I don't think he'll have a lot to do. All right? I think we'll be dominating this game. So I'm sort of happy for the back five to be...
Curse.
Could you play Murillo at left-back, though? That's the problem.
No, I'd go...
We haven't got the full-backs, have we, on the left-hand side?
I would go Morato at left. Basically, I'm the same back four, and then you add in Morato at left back instead of Williams, right? So you got Sells. I wouldn't change the keeper. I don't think we can afford to really risk that in this game. I think you stick with Sells. I think you stick with Murillo Milenkovic, who won't have too much to do. I think you stick with Savona. You put Morato at left back. Then you play Sangare and Dominguez in midfield for the legs. Yatesy in the 10 to offer you some kind of threat in the box. And then McAtee in one of the wide positions. And I would actually start with Hudson-Odoi because I just think between Hudson-Odoi and Ndoye, I would just want to play them 45 minutes each anyway. So I would just start Hudson-Odoi for that extra bit of quality on the ball because I think they'll sit in and it'll be a case of quality in the final third as opposed to like running through and breaking on them. And then bring Ndoye in at half-time, sort of whatever's happening, just to kind of keep those two fresh. And yeah, Cali up front, who, let's not forget, is a £25 million striker that had a good season. So, he should be chomping at the bit.
It should be. And we were so excited in the summer, all of us, about the players we had brought into the club. And it, for whatever reason, and the way it's worked out, we've maybe lost faith in one or two of them. And probably because we haven't seen them. And it is still early on. We are talking about, I think, 10 games in the Premier League now. We've had 3 games already in the Europa. We've had 1 game in the Carabao Cup, which we're now out of. So it is an opportunity, I think, as you said, Paul, for us to maybe decompress away from the Premier League. I think that's the buzzword now, the decompress away.
Yeah.
But Raf, your team is now on the screen, and your personnel is fairly similar, but you again have changed the formation.
Yeah, I've gone, I think, more defensive than everyone else, and this is my theory: is that actually a bit of a Morley stat. You do love a bit of recovery time, don't you?
Well, he's the recovery,
exactly.
Recovery meister.
Yeah. So Graz actually played on Sunday. We played on Saturday. So we've got an extra day of recovery that's in there.
Rarity.
And they've got a very stable team as well. So I'd actually just like to keep the ball for the first half and make them run around and absolutely knacker them out. We can then put on, if we need to, if we haven't nicked a goal at that juncture, put on some finishers, put on some high-class people. We don't want to travel with as many as we can, but bring a Morgan Gibbs-White, maybe bring a Callum Hudson-Odoi over and just get them to finish if we need to. If not, this team can do it. But it's the same. So you've got Milenkovic, Bolly, and Morato as a back three with John in goal. I've got Abbott on the right-hand side. I disagree. When I saw him at the semi-final, he's got gas. He is very tall and he can move
100%
quickly if he needs to. I'm going to have Ndoye just because I'm not starting him against Leeds. So I'm actually starting him in the other wing-back position. And he's defensively shown he can do it quite well this season. It's the midfield three that we've all picked if we picked a midfield three. And they're the ones that are going to be there. And McAtee to give support to Cam Window. Do it from there. But as we've seen, as Deitch talks about in Masterclass, you can have the personnel, just move them around a tiny bit, and that gives you all these different formations that we've kind of talked about. So I think these are kind of the core personnel. Some people have elevated a few first-teamers into there, but we're there or thereabouts. And I think we will see the formation change as the game evolves, I think.
How much, though? Thank you very much. So we're all talking about quite a lot of changes. We're all kind of in favour now of like making... McAtee, Kalimuendo, Morato coming in, Yates starting, Sangari, Dominguez, Abbott, even John Victor. But let's say that happens and we all get our wish. How much of the fan base can forgive Deitch if we lose 2-0 away at Sturm Graz with that team? It's all well and good us saying now, I'll do this, this and this because it's all about the Premier League. But in the here and now, we all want to win every football match. And will the fans be a little bit pissed off when we lose 2-0 away at Graz with that team?
If we win Leeds, I don't think they'll care.
So it's all, you're right. So maybe they'll delay their...
If they don't care, be minorly miffed rather than super annoyed, I would say,
But then let's say, again, I'm trying to project the future. You need to win against Leeds. If it's a draw against Leeds, I think a draw against Leeds at home is a bad result.
Correct.
I really
Agree.
I really do.
Agree.
And I thought the Man United game, getting the point was so huge for us. You guys, we put the vlog out from that game, and you'll see me at half time. I was very doom and gloom. I was so worried, thinking we are getting relegated. And then
you not to be like woo
no,
up here and down here and then up here and down here.
Probably my bipolar coming through. But I was very doom and gloom, and the 2 goals were great, and we had a great time celebrating them. But to get the point, I thought was huge because it gives us the foundation for Leeds. But that point is only a good point if we get 3 against Leeds.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Sturm Graz. We've done our teams. We've had to think about the opposition. We've got a little bit of time left now just to kind of like think about maybe the Graz game and the hereafter. So we quickly turn our attention to being at home against Leeds. How much, Richard, can you forgive? I'm kind of asking the same question. How much could you forgive a crap performance away in Austria, a defeat or even a draw, and then Leeds on Sunday come to town? How much could you forgive the team not performing against Austria if it means that they're up for it against Leeds? And if we lose against Leeds, where's your head at?
Well, I mean, to Dan's point, I think a win here is great because it projects you out to being a lot more comfortable moving forward into that top 8 of the Europa, right? So you definitely can see the value of that. As I've said, I pushed the idea either through WhatsApp or even on X that Deitch could come in because you have to be prepared for the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is you linger in that 16-17 area and you are in a relegation battle and you are trying to ensure that you remain in the Premier League, because we know what kind of impact that's going to have on us. I would say I'm not going to get upset if we lose to Sturm Graz, only because I know the long game as it relates to the Premier League is at the forefront. I don't think anybody's really saying throw in the towel on Europa and do an opposite of Ange last season, right? And focus exclusively on the Premier League. But we know that's long-term sustainable revenue. I hear where Raf's coming from, and he's the financial guru. But if we get relegated and we come into this, we start playing yo-yo, being a yo-yo club, that's not going to get us anywhere. And winning Europa and getting relegated is not going to get us anywhere in my mind.
Oh, it will. The amount of money we get from Champions League. It's so for us. We get into Champions League and play it in the Championship.
You're now putting yourself at risk.
Don't say, you know what, you've said it now.
Right, but you're now putting yourself at risk.
We'll be fine for PSR.
Right.
All that money.
I get it, but you're putting yourself at risk now, and you're almost guaranteeing that you're going to lose Elliot Anderson and various other people.
Well,
yeah,
it'd be
It wouldn't work because all the Champions League games are the same night as the Championship games anyway. You wouldn't fit it all in.
I'm not sure you can actually do it. There'll be some.
It would be unprecedented. How could you
100%. So I think I'm not going to be disappointed, because I feel like we're a better squad, clearly, even with a second 11, as Raf alluded to earlier, than what Sturm Graz is going to feel, right? But invariably, my if that leaves us opportunities to have fresh legs in what has been our traditionally starting 11 players, you see it even more intense and even more aggressive and elite Callum Hudson-Odoi. You see someone like Morgan put in another performance like he did against Manchester United, score a goal, get an assist, keep propping up that GCA metric, right? Then you can forgive all that, because invariably you're not sunk in Europa just by that. It makes it harder. But if you can really laser focus in on that Premier League match, and you win that, it puts us right in line with like a Crystal Palace scenario last year, where they started to progress, right? And we know, I mean, they went on a crazy run of form in that rest of the 3 quarters of the season, right? Last 2/3 of the season, they went on a crazy run. But it's what we need to see happen, and I think it's there. I think the ingredients are there, because I've not sat there and studied Glasner versus Deitch, but I mean, Glasner tends to play a back three, tends to be a little bit more defensively oriented, right? So I think there's not a total loss of commonality amongst that, or Wolves. I mean, Wolves went through the same thing. Ironically, the guy who just got sacked is the one that actually got them out of the hole, right? So I think there's definitely precedent to the idea that you just need to, you don't want to throw in the towel on Europa, but you definitely want to be cognizant of the fact that you got to save some of that elite talent that you have for that match.
Can I just jump in? I think the best chance we've got of winning on Sunday is if we win on Thursday, because we go in with the mentality.
Yeah,
the fans, the players, that momentum. I think
not just the fatigue factor.
I think so as well.
But I think fatigue. If you win, you're not as tired as you are if you lose. Do you know what I mean? It's a psychological thing.
If you added that into the model.
It depends on the manner of the defeat as well, right? There's losing 3-2 to Swansea in the last 10 minutes, and there's losing a kind of a boring game 1-0 from a dodgy decision or something, right? So that it's not just as easy as saying win, lose. Like, I think that plays into it on Thursday as well, is the level of performance and the manner of, if we struggle, there's a difference between what we saw under Ange. And it's harder with a new manager, because a new manager just wants results. And they don't want to have that iffy period of like, well, if I lose this one, then it's even more pressure on the Leeds game and stuff. So,
which is why I think he won't go with the 11-10 changes. He'll go with maybe 5 or 6. And I think that's why. But also, even more so, if you think of the likes of McAtee, Callum Wendo, the guys that we talked about coming in, Sangare, etc., if they have a really good game on Thursday, then that kind of puts the onus on the Premier League lads to say, right, these lads have stepped up. You need to do the same. So keeps everyone on their toes. That's what you want. You want this whole people pushing each other on.
And you're likely to have a good game if you're not in a whole brand new 11. So if you sub in the 4 players like a McAtee and a Callum Wendo, they're more likely to do well around the other set.
The last time we had wholesale changes was against Swansea. I know they were Championship, but I would say Swansea possibly are on a level with Sturm Graz. And we did go 2-0 up, and we carved them open a bit. Yeah. So I can see the case for making changes, and the fact that they are now that all the players know each other, and no matter what combinations you end up on the pitch. Sangare, Yates, and Dominguez have all played with each other at different times. They all know each other. And I think that the key to us getting out of the whole of the Premier League bottom three has to be consistency. We are the most inconsistent team in the Premier League because of the upheaval of manager changes that have happened, with off-the-field antics, with all kinds of stuff in pre-season. Didn't really have a very good pre-season. The Morgan Gibbs-White stuff. We've been so inconsistent and so unsettled that now we've had the Dyche era begin. It's probably the most settled we've been in any of that. Getting off to a win against Porto was wonderful. Bournemouth wasn't a very good performance, but 2-0 away at Bournemouth as opposed to 5-0 last year.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
because then when you back that up
goals,
with Man United, and again, I said on Sunday when we did the pod, we go 1-0 down against Man U, and I was worried, but we didn't fold. And actually, you know what? They came out and they really performed. And that second half, we were good. I know they had a couple of chances, Man U. They hit the post and they scored the goal. But Callum should have scored, I think, to make it 3-1. I think we are just a gnat's whisker away from turning a serious corner. And a win, as you say, against Sturm Graz on Thursday, whoever plays, really kind of underlines this consistency, this feeling of being settled that goes into Sunday. Leeds just lost 3-0, I think, in their last fixture. You know, we've all said that as the season unfolds, you know, we've experienced feeling really good about where we are, but then all of a sudden that lack of squad depth bites us in the butt, and Leeds will feature that. I think Sunderland will as well. Fair play to Sunderland, by the way.
Yeah.
Wonderful, and it's amazing what they're doing. But my gut feeling is that they'll fall away. They won't get relegated, but they'll fall away. Burnley, I don't think will be able to sustain it. I think we will be okay in the long run. But to your point, the way we win on Sunday, I think you've nailed it, Paul. We win on Thursday.
Yeah, I can see that. My counter argument would be we did that against Porto, and then it was a 0-0. It should have been a 0-0 by the XG. It should have been a 0-0 game, right? They got a unfortunate situation.
But we've also got to think about how favourable we are with fixtures falling.
We came away from that match.
You know about Bournemouth, right?
Yeah, Bournemouth. We came away from that with one very key thing in mind. Everyone looked like they were tired.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because once the legs go and the body goes, the mind's going to go as well. You saw that Anderson. He had the worst game I think I've ever seen in a Forest shirt.
Worst game. Yeah, that's fine.
But I mean, that's just because he has such a consistently high standard, right? But the reality was he maybe was a 6 out of 10 instead of a 7.5 or 8, you know. But I think that's why it's been on my mind that we need to rotate a little bit more than we probably. But I can see the merit of what you're saying. It just feels like that's not too dissimilar. I mean, I understand that it was an away match at Bournemouth versus a home match at Leeds. But we had a home match against Sunderland as well. I mean, they've turned out to be really good, obviously, at this stage, or at least at this point in the season. But
the Dyche factor.
Who would be a manager, right? So you could go and change 11.
14.
Yeah.
Don't have to quite say
But yeah, you could change your 11, go and win, and it's absolutely fine, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if you actually didn't even change your 11 and then lost. there's so many.
Yeah, if you do, right? If you didn't change your 11,
exactly what I said last time. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah. So look, at this juncture, it's exciting. I think we'll see a few changes. I think you're right, Paul. I think Dan, you're right as well. That I think that we won't see as many changes as we'd all like to see. But actually, is that good for us because we get a win? And then we just carry it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, we are out of time, and we could probably sit and talk about Forest.
Sure.
And we will continue once we go offline. Danscape, we wish you were with us. But before we finish, I didn't mention it at the start. I thought I'd leave it to the end. We must pay tribute to Stephen Crean, our fellow Forest supporter. When we were at the match on Saturday, we had an amazing time. And there were people that were travelling away from that game, and Stephen Crean was one of them on the train down to London. And we all know, we've heard his story. We've seen the tributes that have been outpouring, and we want to pay tribute to him because you know what? Standing up to someone who's in front of you with a big knife that wants to kill you, I cannot imagine how that must be, how that must really have felt. And he stood there and he said, "No, I'm gonna try and stop you as much as I can." And he put himself in harm's way. So we salute you, Stephen. Thank you so much for what you did for those people on that train. And the fact that you're a Forest fan means that we love you even more, of course. Mr. Marinakis and the club are going to look after you, and fucking rightly so. You deserve everything that's coming to you. So we salute you and thank you very much for your bravery. You know, well done to you. I know you don't want a pat on the back. I've seen your interviews, but we're giving you a huge, huge handshake and saying on behalf of everyone, thank you very much.
Not the bad hand. Yeah.
And then there's a Just Giving page as well.
There is a Just Giving page as well. So go and check out all the Just Giving page that's out there. We're out of time. Danscape over in Sheffield, who's been with us online and feeling very isolated over there. Thank you for being with us and being the slide meister.
Do score predictions?
Yeah, you know what? We will do score predictions.
Oh.
Go on then. Right, Danscape first. What's your score prediction?
Enjoy the rest of your evenings, chaps. I'm even more jealous about that bit, going out for some food and a beer, that bit, than the pod. So, yeah, look forward to that. I think we probably win it 3-0. I think it's more comfortable. You know, I think we're more efficient now. I'm hoping we're more efficient. We know we just go out and get the job done and keep it nice and steady. So 3-0, comfortable, and then we just worry about Sunday.
Fantastic. Raf?
2-1 win.
2-1 win from Raf. Paul Morley?
2-0.
2-0 win from Paul Morley. So we're feeling confident. Richard Spray?
I'm going to go with a 2-0, and I'm going to say Callum Window goal. And then in honor of the chairman of the Willy Body Fan Club, who's on with us right now.
For the set piece?
Yep, set piece one as well, 2-0.
Well, I'm gonna say 4-0. I'm going 4-0. Listen, I'm in the presence of Raf, so my exuberance is at its highest.
Vibes are high.
My vibes are high. I'm saying 4-0. I'm saying Dyche ball in full flow. Because you know what? On Saturday, we weren't playing Nuno ball. We were playing Dyche ball. We actually had a good amount of possession. We were looking to carve them open. More crosses into the box. Whoever's playing, we're going to score some fucking goals. Come on, you Reds. We'll see you soon.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Dark and Red. Yeah, we're talking Reds now.
That's like a royalty family.